Good evening, and welcome to the 2020-2021 season finale of Opera on Tap Houston. I'm Ramin Chaharbaghi, your MC for the evening. In case you're tuning in for the first time, we are your Houston chapter of the international nonprofit Opera on Tap, which was founded by singers for singers who wanted to expose new audiences to the wild and wonderful art form that is opera. We aren't your mom's opera company, though. Instead of operating out of big theaters, we bring opera to the people in bars, restaurants, parks, and other venues where people feel relaxed, comfortable, and preferably inebriated. Cheers to that. We believe that opera is for everyone, not just the 1%, which is why nearly all of our shows are free and open to the public, including the format we've adapted to this year. When the pandemic hit, we adjusted too, continuing to bring you live, free shows, streamed from our Facebook and YouTube pages. It's been an incredible journey. And I, for one, have been quite inspired by the efforts of our staff and singers in carrying onward, sometimes right from the comfort of their own living rooms, or in my case, our personal studio here in the Heights. We are rounding out what has been a very trying but rewarding season. And we want to thank all of our singers and audience members for your continued support. We're currently planning for next year, and while I can't make any promises, we are keeping our fingers crossed for a return to the bars, taverns, and pubs that gave Opera on Tap its name. Of course, as a non-profit, we are unable to do this work without that continued support you've given us. So if you feel so inclined, please hit that Facebook donation button at the top of our Facebook page, or if you prefer alternative means of giving, check the comments below on Facebook for how to donate via Venmo. With all of that said, let's get this show off the road and into your living rooms instead. Our regular viewers might remember this next performer singing another aria from this same opera, La Sonnambula, or in English, The Sleepwalker. It's about exactly what it says on the tin. A woman plagued by a sleepwalking habit. It's an example of a subgenre called opera semiseria, or a show that contains both tragic and comic elements. In this case, the tragedy comes when the title character, Amina, who is betrothed to Elvino, sleepwalks her way into the bed of another man, mama. Though nothing comes of this innocent mistake, a dirty rumor started by a jealous rival nearly ruins her engagement. But, as with all rom-coms, from When Harry Met Sally to When Harry Met the Sonnambula, the misunderstanding is cleared by the end of the show. Of course, since this is opera we're talking about, that means that instead of a big wedding scene, we get a flashy soprano aria. Singing A non giunge from Bellini's La Sonnambula, please welcome soprano Natalie Connor.
Say
Mozart is one of the few classical composers who remains a household name today, and his influence is felt in opera maybe even more than in any other genre of classical music. Coming off of the heels of the Baroque period, which emphasized strict adherence to a limited emotional palette within the context of a given show, Mozart broke that mold by including both comic and tragic characters within any given piece, leading the way for composers like Bellini, who wrote that last opera. This is illustrated well in The Magic Flute, the opera which includes this next aria. The heroic tenor lead, Tamino, who sings this tune, is accompanied by an outlandish half-bird, half-man named Papageno, the comic relief, as they work together to try to rescue Pamina from the temple of Zarastro, though not is all as it seems. At this point, though, we're still at the start of the show before the big plot reveals, and Tamino has just received a portrait from the lovely princess from her mother, the Queen of the Night. He falls into the old trope of love at first sight with Princess Pamina, but pursues her without questioning further. However, Tamino probably could have learned a thing or two from his composer Mozart about questioning those tropes before he runs in head first, singing that beautiful ode to love that our pup Griffin loves, At First Sight, Dies Bildnis ist bezaubernd schön, or How Lovely is This Portrait? Please welcome tenor Cody Arthur.
Dies Bildnis ist bezaubernd schön, wie noch kein Auge je gesehen. Ich fühle es, wie diese Götterwelt mein Herz mit neuer Regung füllt. Mein Herz mit neuer Regung füllt. Dies etwas kann ich zwar nicht nennen, doch fühl ich hier wie Feuer brennen. Soll die Empfindung Liebe sein, soll die Empfindung Liebe sein. Ja, ja, die Liebe ist allein. Die Liebe ist allein. Oh, wenn ich sie nun finden könnte, oh, wenn sie doch schon vor mir stände, ich wilde, warm und rein, was werde ich? Ich wilde sie voll entzücken an diesen heißen Rosen drücken und ewig wäre sie dann mein und ewig wäre sie dann mein und ewig wäre sie dann mein, ewig wäre sie dann mein, ewig wäre sie dann
Continuing our trend tonight of mixing the comic and the serious, the next aria is from Richard Strauss's Ariadne auf Naxos. Mythology buffs might recognize the title character Ariadne as a princess in Greek mythology, whose lover Theseus abandons her on an island. However, in this opera, that tragedy is set as a play within a play, where the host of a fabulous night of theater has accidentally invited two performing acts to the same show. One is a group of actors presenting the tragedy of Ariadne, while the other is a troupe of clowns. Rather than cancel the show, the hosts demand that both performances occur simultaneously on the same stage. Hilarity ensues, with everything from the comic performers dancing around Ariadne as she does her best to keep a straight face, to this next number, Großmächtige Prinzessin. Please welcome coloratura soprano Catherine Goode.
Großmächtige Prinzessin, wer verstünde nicht, dass so erlauchter und erhabener Person in Traurigkeit mit einem anderen Maß gemessen werden muss, als der gemeinen Sterblichen. Jedoch sind wir nicht Frauen unter uns und schlechte nicht in ihre Brust ein unbegreiflich, ein unbegreiflich Herz. Von unserer Schwachheit sprechen, sie uns selber eingestehen. Ist es nicht schmerzlich süß und zuckt von sich der Sinn? Sie wollen mich nicht hören. Schön und stolz und regungslos, als wären sie die Statue auf ihrer eigenen Gruft. Sie wollen keine andere Vertraute als diesen Fels und diese Wellen haben. Prinzessin, hören Sie mich an, nicht Sie allein. Verona, ach, Verona, was hätte statt? Wer ist die Frau, es nicht schnell litten hätte? Verlassen in Verzweiflung, ausgesetzt. Solche Wesen sind und zählige, Mitten unter Menschen. Ich selber, ich habe ihre Erde bewohnt und habe nicht gelernt, die Männer zu verfluchen. Treulos, sie sind's, ungeheuer, ohne Grenzen. Eine kurze Nacht, ein hastiger Tag, ein wehende Luft, ein fließender Blick, verwandelt ihr Herz. Aber sind wir denn gefeit gegen die grausamen, entzückenden, unbegreiflichen Verwandlungen? Noch glaub ich dem einen ganz mich gehörend, noch mein ich mir selber so sicher zu sein, da mischt sich im Herzen Ah
Thank you so much, Catherine. And by the way, good luck at Marilla this summer. Congratulations. Also, special shout out to pianist Andrea Moot for playing that reduction. Whew, what a beast of an accompaniment. Great job to the two of you. Talk about vocal acrobatics. If you liked that performance, please consider hitting that donate button at the top of our Facebook page, or again, check the comments for our Venmo details on Facebook. Every penny donated goes directly toward our artists, and toward keeping our shows free and accessible to the public. Moving right along, we have our first show tune of the evening from Jason Robert Brown's Songs for a New World. Produced in 1995, this show is something like a revue, where 4 performers change characters as they each sing songs that are thematically connected. It almost feels like a song cycle, really, and in this number, the performer sings about the different suitors she's met in her life, not unlike the last one, but with very different results. Though she is offered plenty of love from well-meaning but poor gentleman callers, she winds up choosing a wealthy husband. And as is also the case for some of the other characters in the show, this one moment ends up changing her life forever. Singing Stars in the Moon, please welcome my fellow co-managing diva, soprano, Anna Diemer.
I met a man without a dollar to his name, who had no traits of any value but his smile. I met a man who had no yearn or claim to fame, who was content to let life pass him for a while. And I was sure that all I ever wanted was a life like the movie stars led. But he kissed me right here, and he said, I'll give you stars and the moon and a soul to guide you, and a promise I'll never go. I'll give you hope to bring out all the life inside you, and the strength that will help you grow. I'll give you truth and a future that's 20 times better than any Hollywood plot. And I thought, you know, I'd rather have a yacht. I met a man who lived his life out on the road, who left a wife and kids in Portland on a whim. I met a man whose fire and passion always showed, who asked if I could spare a week to ride with him. And I was sure that all I ever wanted was a life that was scripted and planned. And he said, but you don't understand. I'll give you stars and the moon and an open highway and a river beneath your feet. I'll give you days full of dreams if you travel my way, and a summer you can't repeat. I'll give you nights full of passion and days of adventure, no strings, just warm summer rain. And I thought, you know, I'd rather have champagne. I met a man who had a fortune in the bank, who had retired at age 30, set for life. I met a man and didn't know which stars to thank, and then he asked one day if I would be his wife. And I looked up, and all that I could think of was the life I had dreamt I would live. And I said to him, what will you give? I'll give you cars and a townhouse in Taro Bay and a fur and a diamond ring. And we'll be married in Spain on my yacht today, and we'll honeymoon in Beijing. And you'll meet stars at the parties I throw at my villas in Nice and Paris in June. And I thought, okay. And I took a breath. And I got my yacht. And the years went by. And it never changed. And it never grew. And I never dreamed. And I woke one day, and I looked around, and I thought, my God, I'll never have the moon.
Speaking of show tunes, if you've ever seen the musical Rent, you might recognize the tune of this next aria as Musetta's Waltz, which is named after the character who sings it in the original opera that Rent is based on, called La Bohème. As in many other forms of media, including musical theater, operas often include a secondary couple to juxtapose the primary couple. And in Bohème, the tragic primary pair, Mimi and Rodolfo, are contrasted by Marcello and his fiery ex, Musetta. At this point in the opera, Marcello and Musetta have seen each other in a crowded restaurant, where she is now dating something of a sugar daddy, who's not exactly into him, but he buys her nice things. Opting to rub Marcello's face in it, she sings this boastful aria in front of him about how no man can possibly ignore her as she strolls down the avenue. In this crowded restaurant, Marcello tries his best, but in the end, he cannot ignore her, because who can resist some high notes, am I right? Remember to drink on them, by the way. Performing Quando Men Vo from Puccini's La Bohème, please welcome back Natalie Connor.
Sta in
This next aria is another soprano showstopper with about as many sudden shifts in tone as the opera that it stems from. Written by Russian composer Igor Stravinsky, but to an English libretto. A Rake's Progress was inspired by 8 separate paintings and engravings by the 18th century artist William Hogarth. As such, the plot sometimes feels disjunct as it pieces together all of these different portraits. The main protagonist, Tom Rakewell, is courting Anne Truelove, but after he claims aloud that he wants money, the devil appears in disguise to him and leads him astray across all of London, where he meets all manner of unusual characters from those paintings, including Mother Goose, Baba the Turk, and more. Meanwhile, poor Anne will not be left behind. Concerned for Tom's well-being, she declares her intent to find him, proclaiming that time cannot alter an ever-loving heart. Singing No Word from Tom and accompanied by Samuel Martin, please welcome soprano Samantha Long. Again, I hope you were being a little cautious with all the drinking for the high notes there. Far from the tale of the impoverished Tom Rakewell from that lost opera, though, this next aria comes from the austere Baroque show by Handel, Rodelinda. Like many Baroque operas, it's centered around geopolitical drama, as the character who sings this aria, Grimoaldo, has usurped the throne of Lombardy, ousting the former king and attempting to seduce both that king's wife and his sister. Tenors playing villains? We're breaking all the rules tonight, baby. In fact, in this aria, Grimoaldo lays out his rules in absolute terms. Either Edwige, the former king's sister, agrees to wed him, or she will be spurned by the man who now rules all of Lombardy. Singing Io già t'amai, please welcome back Cody Arthur.
Io già t'amai ritrosa. Segnassi esser mia sposa, sempre dicesti no, sempre dicesti no, sempre dicesti no, segnassi esser mia sposa, segnassi esser mia sposa, sempre dicesti no. Io già t'amai ritrosa, segnasti d'esser mia sposa, segnasti d'esser mia sposa, sempre dicesti no, sempre dicesti no, segnasti esser mia sposa, sempre dicesti no, 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 segnasti esser mia sposa, sempre dicesti no. Orch'io son re, non voglio compagna nel mio sogno, aver chi mi sprezzo, no, no, non voglio compagna nel mio sogno, aver chi mi sprezzo. Io già t'amai ritrosa, segnasti esser mia sposa, sempre dicesti no, sempre dicesti no, sempre dicesti no, segnasti esser mia sposa, segnasti esser mia sposa, sempre dicesti no. Io già t'amai ritrosa, segnasti d'esser mia sposa, segnasti d'esser mia sposa, sempre dicesti no, sempre dicesti no, segnasti esser mia sposa, sempre dicesti no, 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 segnasti esser mia sposa, sempre dicesti no.
Although it's no longer as popular as it was back in Handel's heyday, opera still makes flash appearances in pop culture, and fans of the sci-fi film The Fifth Element might enjoy this next piece. Although it's not the same aria sung by a blue alien at the end of that film, it's from the same opera, Lucia di Lammermoor, and is also sung by the same title character. This tragic ghost story of an opera centers around three Scottish noble families, the Ashtons, who rule Lammermoor Castle, the Bucklaws, and the Ravenswoods. For political gain, Enrico Ashton hopes to wed his sister Lucia to a Bucklaw, but this wouldn't be an opera if that worked out. Instead, she hopes to marry Edgard, or in this Italian libretto, Edgardo, Ravenswood, against her brother's wishes. Amid this political drama is the backdrop of an old ghost story that tells of an ancient ghost who haunts the halls of Lammermoor Castle, who seeks vengeance after she was murdered by a jealous Ravenswood. In this aria from the beginning of the show, Lucia sings of an encounter she's had with that ghost, not realizing that her own fate is foreshadowed by that spirit's fate. Singing Regnava nel silenzio, welcome back soprano Samantha Long, accompanied by Samuel Martin. In this next number, Natalie will flex her musical theater muscles, singing a song from a show about a topic you may have heard before. Bonnie and Clyde is about the infamous outlaw couple who wind up dead due to their criminal antics. Oh, but don't worry, that was no spoiler. Their death is the first thing you'll see if you ever get a chance to watch this show live. Though it's based on a familiar folktale, the score is also a bit of a muscle flex for the composer, Frank Wildhorn, whose musicals are usually more known for big, epic, classically informed music than this show's more rockabilly-tinged score. It's definitely a show that would suit a Texan audience, and I'm hopeful that since its 2009 premiere, it might continue to gain enough traction for a Houston performance. Singing How About a Dance from Bonnie and Clyde. Welcome back, Natalie Connor.
How about a dance? What do you say? I got some moves that I love to show you. Let's find a spot and dance the night away. How about a dance? It's always fun. Come over here, let me get to know ya. Can't beat a band to lift your spirits high. You look so handsome. How about a dance? Let's make a start. Music like this can really throw ya. You'll lose the blues and you may lose your heart. Tonight is the night I've been waiting for. Even the moon looks just right. I know the crowd will make room on the floor when they see you look like you do. So how about a dance? Let's make a start. Music like this can really throw ya. You'll lose the blues and you may lose your heart. You're losing the blues, and you may lose your heart.
Closing out our showcase this evening is another show that premiered just a year prior to Bonnie and Clyde in 2008. With music and words by Adam Guan, this show is sung through, much like most operas, although it's a musical, and it follows the lives of New Yorkers who struggle with relationships and other standard human stuff. A far cry from the high political drama of shows like Lucia di Lammermoor and Rosalinda, which we heard earlier. The character who sings this song, Deb, has moved to the Big Apple to start grad school, and here she sings of her longing to get away from her small town and pursue the dreams she had in her childhood. If that doesn't summarize the ambitions of your average opera singer, I'm not sure what will. Singing Don't Wanna Be Here from Ordinary Days, welcome back, Anna Diemer.
I grew up in like the middle of nowhere, and I swore I would never go back. My hometown was like like the suburb of a suburb. I actually lived on a cul-de-sac. That's literally a road that goes nowhere. That's the definition of dead end. I said I can't wait to learn to do a 3-point turn because I don't want to be here. In 4 long years, I finished up with high school, graduated top of my class. Thank you. But in college, I discovered that devising your own major was a bureaucratic pain in the ass. I thought I'd recontextualize Sartre, but could only register for first year French. Well, you should have heard my mom when I dropped the bomb and said I don't want to be here. No, I don't want to be here. And I am not a negative person. It's just that I've always known that I have places to go, dreams to fulfill and ideas to discover. They're just never where I am. So anyway, back at school, I waited 5 semesters till I could snag one of their random degrees. I moved down south cause I heard everyone was hiring, and they were at the Applebee's. They fired me like 3 weeks later. My sublet promptly, whoops, fell through. As I checked into a hotel, I thought it's just as well because I don't want to be here. No, I don't want to be here. And I was not a negative person, and so I packed up my bags though I had no place to go. I opened a map and said, show me my future, cause it isn't where I am. I finally got a job at some humdrum office like everyone right out of school does. I sat there in my cubicle every day sending faxes, and that's what my life was. Oh, I went back home and said to my parents, I know I've got to do. And since I am a dork, I moved to New York, and I started grad school. I really don't want to be here.
Whew, what a season we have had. Through the ups and downs of this pandemic, we've been grateful to have all of you, our loyal audience members, whose generosity has not only encouraged us to continue, but has even helped us to raise more money than we ever have before. I'd also like to take a moment to thank our amazing, hardworking, and devilishly handsome producer of our on-the-fly digital shows. Folks, please thank my co-managing diva and boyfriend, Nathan Abbott, with a round of applause. Sorry, that's an elementary music teacher habit, what can I say? Stay tuned to our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages, all of which use the same handle, OOT Houston, for news about next season. Remember, too, that you can catch many of our past shows here on our YouTube channel, for those watching on YouTube right now. We also want to thank all of the fantastic, courageous singers who have worked hard to continue providing Houston and, now, the World Wide Web with accessible art right from your own living rooms. We couldn't have pulled this crazy season off without all of you. Please do consider hitting that donate button at the top of our Facebook page or donating via the Venmo details in that comments section on this Facebook video. And remember to have a safe, happy, and healthy summer.